The rain poured outside as I sat alone in my car, gripping my wedding ring. Tears blurred my vision, and my heart felt heavier than ever. 7 years of marriage, and I wasn't sure we'd make it to 8. David, my husband, wasn't the man I'd fallen in love with, or maybe I wasn't the woman he needed anymore. Everything felt broken, and I didn't know how to fix it. And then, out of nowhere, a stranger changed everything. David and I had what you'd call a picture-perfect marriage, or at least, that's what it looked like to others. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. We used to talk for hours about everything, from our dreams to silly little jokes. But now, silence. The kind that felt louder than words. Every day brought new arguments. He'd forget something important, and I'd snap. I'd bring up past mistakes, and he'd shut down. Even the way he drank his coffee started to irritate me. And the worst part, I didn't know if I still loved him or if he still loved me. One night, after yet another fight, David stormed out. I stood there in the empty house, surrounded by the echoes of our shouting, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. I thought to myself, this it? Is this how it ends? The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I left the house with no destination in mind, just a need to escape. I wandered the streets, my thoughts racing, until I found myself outside a small cafe I'd never noticed before. Something about it felt inviting, like it was calling me in. I ordered a coffee and sat in the corner, trying to make sense of my feelings. That's when I noticed her, a kind-looking woman, probably in her 60s, sitting a few tables away. She must have noticed the sadness on my face, because she walked over and asked, "Are you all right, dear?" I hesitated, but there was something about her warmth that made me open up. Before I knew it, I was pouring my heart out to a complete stranger. I told her about the fights, the distance, the feeling that we were two strangers living under the same roof. And when I finally stopped, she simply smiled and said, "Sometimes we forget that love is a choice we make every day." She went on to tell me her own story, how she and her late husband had faced similar struggles, how they'd almost given up, but chose to fight for their love. She said something that stuck with me. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to grow, to forgive, and to see the good in each other even on the hardest days. Her words made me realize something. I'd been so focused on David's flaws that I'd ignored my own. I'd built walls around myself, trying to protect my heart, but all I'd done was push him away. I knew then that if I wanted to save my marriage, I had to take the first step. When I got home, David was sitting on the couch, looking as lost as I felt. For the first time in weeks, I saw not anger, but sadness in his eyes. I sat down next to him and said, "David, can we talk?" At first, it was awkward. We were so used to arguing that it felt strange to just talk. But as we opened up, something shifted. He admitted he'd been feeling just as disconnected, just as hurt. And when I told him about the woman at the cafe and what she'd said, he nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "I don't want to lose us," I whispered. He took my hand and said, "Neither do I." That conversation was just the beginning. It wasn't easy, rebuilding never is, but we started small. We made time for each other, even if it was just a walk around the block or a quiet dinner without our phones. We learned to listen, really listen, without interrupting or judging. And slowly, the walls between us began to come down. We laughed again, we shared our dreams again, and we remembered why we fell in love in the first place. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like enough. Looking back, I'll always be grateful for that stranger. Her words didn't just save my marriage, they saved me. She reminded me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. It's about choosing each other every single day. So if you're struggling in your relationship, remember this. It's okay to feel lost. But don't be afraid to fight for what matters. Because sometimes, all it takes is a small step, a kind word, or even a stranger's wisdom to turn everything around. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, love is a journey worth taking, no matter how hard it gets.